This right here is a package, and this package came all the way from China. And what is inside the package, you ask? Well, I actually ordered the cheapest Pokemon game I could. This right here is Pokemon Green, which for those of you who don't know was never actually released and cost me about £1.50 all the way from China. Hence the price on the packaging. Now, we'll touch on what makes it unique slightly later, but this is what I got sent. Now, what actually stands out to me first is, well, the cartridge is very light, extremely light, and at the top of it, it's not actually a Game Boy game, no, this is just game. Just game. Which is hilarious in itself. The actual print quality on the label isn't half bad, other than the little details which are a little bit blurry, but then again, you know, we can already pretty much tell this is a dodgy game in the first place. But does this game actually work, or have I actually been sent a pile of junk? And is it indeed a game, like it promises so much to be? So sticking it inside the Game Boy, which was a pain in the ass to film for anyone that hasn't ever tried to film one of these, it's very difficult. But the game does in fact start. But not all is as it seems. See, it says Pokemon Green. In fact, it pops up with this information and it even has a save game on there, which I did actually just play through a little bit and also told me that the game worked alright and does in fact save the game, so the game is very clearly working. But what else is going on here? So to find out, I decided to open up the cartridge and see exactly how they've achieved this for such a low price, as this seems to be a working Game Boy game. Or sorry, a working game, as they've put on the cartridge. So first of all, from the back we can tell this is dodgy because it's got the wrong screw in the wrong place, but at the same time we just want to get it opened up. So after we get it opened, let's find out what's going on inside. Well, with the cartridge now open, it really is a clever design. It's not original at all. In fact, compared to an original cartridge, it's actually somewhat of an improvement, at least from a cost-saving perspective, and somewhat of a practicality point, which I'll touch on later. Now, you can see that that large battery bay has been soldered down onto the main board. See, usually this one was required for you to save your game, because in the later games it was also used for your clock and date and things like that. But in the original release, well, how things work to save your game is to save on costs in the 90s, flash memory was quite expensive, so it worked out cheaper to install a small SRAM chip, and much like normal RAM, as soon as it would lose power, your data is gone. So once saving your save game to this, they needed to keep power going to it. Now, that was with the battery. See, this solution isn't actually needed today, as what they've done is replace that RAM chip where your save data should go with flash storage, which for those of you who don't know basically functions like a small SD card for your game to go onto, but very tiny and not SD card sized. This means that there doesn't need to be a battery, cutting down on the costs. However, I was still confused why they left the battery bay there, so I've ordered a few of the more expensive Gen 2 games to see what they have on sale and just see what they actually do and if they're any different inside, which I'll likely cover up in a follow-up if people actually enjoy this video. But in the meantime, why don't we explore this game a bit? I mean, it's a bit weird that the cheapest one I could order from China was never actually released here in the UK, or even China, or where it was made. It was, you know, a bit of a strange title. So this here Pokemon Green. It's a weird one. See, the original Pokemon Green was released solely in Japan alongside Pokemon Red in, I think, 1995. But it wasn't the one we got. See, this is completely different, and the only version you can get over here usually was a poorly translated version of Pokemon Green. But as we've seen, this isn't it, and I can attest to that as you can actually read what's going on in this game. But what this game does seem to have is all the assets and features from that original release, which included some stranger sprites which, you know, looked a bit creepy, and they were made to look less creepy for the Western release of Pokemon Red and Blue, so all the sprites seem to match up perfectly with that dodgy original release from 95. But not the later release, which features the sprites that we all know and love. But this is still only the beginning. See, I decided I want to see just how things matched up and where this has come from. So I decided it was time to dump the ROM and find out exactly how they'd gone about making this weird game, because it's not quite the later release, but it sure as hell isn't the original release either, so what exactly is going on? So after digging through the game's files, it would appear that what they've done is taken Pokemon Blue, the Western release, from later than 95, I think it was released in 1998 or along that timeline, and it was likely from a retail US ROM where they've built this from. And from here the game has been opened up, and certain files have been patched back to the original Pokemon Green assets. See, the reasoning behind this would allow them to have a perfectly English translation, while appearing to have all the assets and quirks you'd usually see in the original Pokemon Green version of the game. So it's this weird amalgamation of both games, but is that the end of this story? So I decided after dumping the ROM it was worth seeing just how playable the game is. I mean, I've already opened it up to see what's going on, but are there any game-breaking bugs or glaring issues that appear? Well, first of all, you can't perform the save glitch, which is what happens when you actually turn off the Game Boy when you are saving the game. The thing is that you can't do this because they've swapped over to flash memory from a small RAM chip, so it doesn't work because of how the saving directly to flash memory works. At least that's my understanding. So that didn't work, but if anything, that gives you less issues than the original copy of the game. Just not a strictly 100% reproduction of what the original game would run like. Now, one glaring thing, other than the sprite, which I'll touch on a tad more later on, was that the original Game Boy Color could display some tiles. And of course those tiles would then appear to have a colour. In Pokemon Blue it was blue, in Pokemon Red it was red, and of course in Pokemon Green they've done it. It's green, and it is rather glaring. Now of course if you played this on original Game Boy or anything along those lines, well there wouldn't be any colour at all, so that would solve that issue. And to be fair, the way they've actually done it in some areas is rather tasteful and quite nice. So after playing through a bit more, I want to see if the game had any degree of interconnectability. See, it's a mixture of two games, what would it actually work with? Now, I'd be doing this on two Game Boys with a link cable, but unfortunately, I only have access to my ancient Game Boy Color and no link cable. So after hunting down some ancient software that could actually emulate a link cable, I wanted to see if it could actually communicate with another game. The game in question being the original game it was based off with Pokemon Blue. Now, after a little bit of configuring and messing about with these titles, the game does in fact allow you to trade or battle with a retail copy of the game. And I have had people tell me that the game will work with Pokemon Stadium. However, I lack the equipment to test this because I have the game, but I don't actually have the Coliseum pack or whatever it is it's meant to come with. So after trading, we got an evolution, and of course it looks like a complete abomination, much like the rest of the Pokemon sprites in the game, but still, they got the job done, and although they've modded the ROM, it was good enough to work. And it didn't corrupt anything, which was nice. Although if you attempt to trade with the original Pokemon Green or Red, the original Japanese release from 95, it will either crash your game or corrupt your save. I did get it very close to working one time, but it's extremely temperamental and doesn't work all too well, and unfortunately I lack the original equipment to give that a proper test with. Although if I come across the stuff, I'll probably pick it up and, do a little spin-off video or something like that if people enjoy this one. The rest of the game up until this point was working alright, with each of the gyms working normally, all of the battles working normally. I hadn't experienced any lockups or crashes whatsoever. I will add that the health bar did appear to have a few issues at some stages of the game, much more to do with the beginning of the game, but that sort of subsided later on into the title, both on an original Game Boy Color and on an emulator that I'm using on PC. Throughout my entire time playing every piece of the game, well, it worked alright, from the starters all the way through to the Elite Four. I haven't played these games in a long time, and in fact, I don't think I've ever completed a Gen 1 game. I came very close to, but ultimately it seemed alright with no major issues or glaring problems. So for a dodgy repo cart from eBay that ended up costing me about £1.50, it doesn't seem like too much of a bad buy. That is of course accepting it's not legitimate and it's not the real thing, but the way they've implemented things into this game was very well done, especially for a game that never actually saw a real Western release. All I can really say from here is that the audio in game is exactly what you'd expect, and I haven't really noticed any major problems for any of the tracks or even the way it plays. I'll play some clips for you now if you'd like, and I'll even play some clips from real hardware. Not that it's very pleasant to listen to, but it's definitely worth seeing how it sounds. So, in conclusion, this was a very dodgy repo cart that ended up being sold from China for next to nothing. And what have we learned at the end of the day? Well, it worked alright from start to finish of the game, even on real hardware. So you know, it's not exactly the real product, but it sure as hell meets the needs of the real product. But still, it's interesting to see how they've pulled it off, what exactly they are selling, and if it works from start to finish, which it did. So let me know if you enjoyed this video, as it took a long time to make. I mean, I had to play through the entire game. And it was definitely quite the adventure to find out how they'd done all this. You know, I'm still kind of fascinated how they did it. Thank you very much for watching, and good night. So fellas, this video was a very different one, but I do hope you've enjoyed it. You can like and subscribe for more like this, or you know, dislike the video if you didn't like it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.